For the past 20 years, Alex Garland has brought to life some uniquely strange and interesting worlds that have both been entertaining to watch and challenging to view. In my eyes, he is a filmmaker and storyteller that seems to enjoy writing this line of division between entertainment and discomfort, making us feel both excited to have watched his new body of work while also being fearful of what actually happens in it. But it seems like the Alex Garland era is coming to an end, and for what it's worth, I feel like it's important to reflect upon his entire body of work and what made his writing so special. This is a man who has written stories that have explored dystopian settings, life-threatening situations, questions of what it means to be who we are, and what happens at the very edge of new frontiers that are not of human nature. For most of us, our first introduction to Alex Garland came through the film 28 Days Later, which at the time was a huge deal for the zombie genre. In my eyes, he single-handedly probably revived the entire genre since the days of George Romero and made zombies feel as visceral and dangerous as anything else that has come before and after. No longer were they slow walkers or creatures that only looked intimidating up close. Alex Garland turned them into devastatingly fast and viciously rabid monsters that weren't just going to bite you but completely consume you whole. It was crazy, and it still haunts me to this day.
Wait for me, please! Please, Selena! Wait for me! Selena! Wait! Please! For fuck's sake! Selena!
After this, we got the film Sunshine, which is easily one of my favorites from Alex Garland, as it is much of a sleeper hit that I feel is incredibly underrated. Once again, it tells the story of a dystopian future, but instead of humanity being hunted by the undead, they are facing the grimmest of realities where our star begins to die, and a cold winter arises. The premise to me was just so interesting to watch from a sci-fi point of view, with some beautiful imagery and uniquely challenging situations, and while I might have some issues with the twist at the end, it's grown on me as it is a really fascinating introspective study on what happens to us when we are all alone and faced with the daunting challenge of looking at the universe with all of its darkness and meaningless and watching what happens when that darkness touches back. Next is the film Dread, which is something that surprised me to have been written by Alex Garland, but now makes more sense as to why it was so enjoyable as a reboot/retelling of the character Judge Dredd. The theme of a dystopian future is present once more, but it's the first time that I would say we see what an Alex Garland action film would look like. It's filled with grungy action sequences, poetically powerful visual imagery, and a hero who is almost just as a villain like the people he is forced to take control of. A seriously underrated surprise that is also lifted by its director Pete Travis, who does justice to Alex Garland's words.
Now here's the deal. You let me walk or I blow her fucking brains out, okay?
Negotiation's over.
Hey, what are you doing? You know what I said? I'll kill the bitch!
Yeah, I heard you, hotshot.
What?
I said, hotshot.
Moving to his directorial debut is the movie Ex Machina, which now feels like a film that is closest to mimicking what is currently happening in reality today, with the advent of artificial intelligence just around the corner. Ahead of its time in many regards, what I love about Ex Machina is the way it explored themes of existentialism, artificial consciousness, ethics around the creation of digital entities, and the nature of true intelligence. It's probably the best film about exploring how the Turing test would play out, and whether or not you'd be able to tell the difference between a machine and a human being, which is becoming ever more blurred with each passing minute.
Stop. No, don't do that. Don't do that. You don't have to do that. What are you doing?
I told you you're wasting your time talking to her. However, you would not be wasting your time if you were dancing with her. Go ahead, dance with her. Dance with her. No? You don't like dancing? She does. Come on, buddy. After a long day of Turing tests, you gotta unwind.
What were you doing with Ava?
What?
You tore up her picture.
I'm gonna tear up the fucking dance floor, dude. Check it out.
Trying to find a friend. Everybody's busy. Can't wait for the night to begin.
Annihilation followed after this, and in terms of exploring the strangest of concepts and universes, this would easily be the movie that takes the cake. The premise follows the journey of scientists into a quarantine zone that has been modified by some sort of alien presence that causes genes and all of life within its dome to become mutated and modified. By far one of the creepiest films, I view Annihilation as a body of work that shows Alex Garland's talents at not just creating a dystopian story, but truly embodying it through a narrative that too feels dystopian in itself. What I mean by this is that it's like the pages of the script have become mutated and are unearthly, and the result is simply something horrifyingly unexplainable. Finally, we got the film Men, which is possibly my second favorite film from Alex Garland, but one that I am most definitely not that keen on watching again, simply because the visceral imagery from this movie is one that I do not take lightly. Compared to his other films, this is probably the least dystopian story of them all, and in fact, probably the most grounded in reality with how it examines the effects of depression and guilt and emotional abuse from loved ones. But it's the way that it's delivered that makes it truly Alex Garland-like, who uses the psychological thriller nature of his words to great effect, making it possibly his most psychologically abusive film to date.
I am staying on the line.
Are you alone in the house?
With what seems to be shaping up to be his final film called Civil War, Alex Garland looks to be leaving a legacy of stories that challenge the existing narrative, both by providing outlooks to future scenarios not too hard to imagine, but that are incredibly creative and fascinatingly brutal to watch. The world of cinema won't feel the same without him, but at the same time, I am glad that he has given us some thoughtful pieces of art to date, and I am hopeful that he will continue to work in some form or capacity on other works of different mediums in the future, because for what it's worth, the world needs his kind of stories.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?